One evening in Paris, in the autumn of 1845, I went to visit my friend Auguste Dupin. We were sitting together, smoking our pipes and talking, when the door opened. Mr. Germont, the head of the Paris police, came into the room. "I need your advice," Germont said to Dupin. "I am working on a very important case. It is also a very simple case, but very strange. I thought you might enjoy hearing about it." "My men and I have been working on this case for 3 months," Germont continued. "It is about a stolen letter. It seems so simple, but we still cannot solve it." Dupin took his pipe out of his mouth. "Perhaps the problem is too simple," he said. Germont laughed. "Too simple? How can that be possible?" I looked at Germont. "Why don't you tell us what happened?" I said. Germont stopped laughing and sat down. "All right," he said. "But you must promise not to tell anyone. The wife of a very important man needs help. I cannot tell you her name, so let's call her Madame X. 3 months ago, someone stole a letter from her. She is offering a large reward to anyone who can return the letter. We know her husband's political enemy, Mr. Darcy, took the letter. We also know it is in his apartment. Darcy plans to use the letter to embarrass Madame X's husband and ruin his career. My men and I have searched Darcy's apartment every night for 3 months. We still cannot find the letter." Dupin stopped smoking. "How did you search?" he asked. Germont leaned forward. "We were very thorough. We checked every room, piece of furniture, and drawer. We looked under rugs and behind paintings. We opened every book and even checked under the floorboards. We examined the legs of tables, but the letter is not there. What should I do?" Dupin puffed on his pipe. "What does the letter look like?" he asked. "It is in a white envelope with a red stamp," Germont said. "The address is written in large black letters." Dupin puffed on his pipe again. "Go back and search the apartment again," he said. About a month later, Germont returned. "I followed your advice," he said, "but I still didn't find the letter." Dupin smiled. "I knew you wouldn't," he said. Germont's face turned red. "Then why did you make me search again?" Dupin laughed. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "Do you remember the famous doctor, Louis Abernathy?" "No," Germont said angrily. "Get to the point." All right," Dupin said. "Once a rich old man met Dr. Abernathy at a party. The man wanted free medical advice, so he described his symptoms. Then he asked, 'Doctor, what would you tell a patient like me to take?' Dr. Abernathy replied, 'I would tell him to take my advice.'" Germont looked annoyed. "I'm happy to pay for advice," he said. Dupin smiled. "How much is the reward for finding the letter. Germont sighed. 50,000 francs. Dupin nodded. Then write me a check for 50,000 francs. When you do, I will give you the letter. Germont's eyes widened in shock, but he took out his checkbook, wrote the check, and gave it to Dupin. Dupin checked the amount, put the check in his pocket, and opened a drawer in his desk. He took out the letter and handed it to Germont. Germont's hands shook as he opened the letter. He read it quickly, then put it in his pocket and left without a word. "Dupin," I said, "how did you solve the mystery?" Dupin smiled. "It was simple," he said. "Germont and his men could not find the letter because they thought like policemen. They searched for the letter in the places where they would hide it. But Mr. Darcy is not a policeman. He is very clever. He knew the police would search his apartment, so he didn't hide the letter at all. I visited Darcy in his apartment, pretending I had eye problems and needed dark green glasses. While we talked, I looked around. I saw a small shelf above the fireplace with some postcards and an old, dirty letter. It looked completely different from what Germont described. It had a green stamp, and the address was written in small blue letters. But I knew it had to be the letter. I memorized every detail of it while we talked. Then I pretended to drop my glove under my chair. The next day, I returned to look for my glove. While we talked, we heard shouting outside. Darcy went to the window to see what was happening. I quickly took the letter and replaced it with a fake one I had prepared. The shouting was staged. I paid one of my servants to create a commotion. "But why did you replace the letter?" I asked. "Why not just take it?" Dupin smiled again. "Darcy is dangerous, and his servants are loyal. If he discovered the letter was missing, I might not have left his apartment alive. Replacing it bought me time to leave safely." Dupin lit his pipe and leaned back in his chair. "Sometimes, my friend, the best hiding place is in plain sight."